call this village board meeting for the Village of Sugar Grove to order. Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
President Solo.
Here.
Trustee Lundy.
Here.
Trustee London. Trustee London.
I can't hear anything.
Trustee London?
Here?
Trustee Special.
Here.
Trustee Michaels.
Here.
Trustee Roscoff.
Here.
Trustee Bonnie.
Thank you. We have no public hearing and no proclamations this evening. Up next, we have a presentation from Progressive Energy regarding Arbor Avenues and solar. Scott Keppel will introduce.
So I apologize. I did not hear from him last I checked. They were supposed to be in attendance tonight. Excuse me. And I've not gotten anything recently from them. Let me reach out. I apologize if this could be moved out to potentially later in the meeting. Again, I apologize. Maybe it's traffic or something. Let me check in with them.
Is there a motion and a second to move the presentation from Progressive Energy to
I'll make a motion.
after public comment on scheduled action items?
I'll make a motion.
We have a first from Trustee
I'll
Roscoff
second.
and a second from Trustee Michaels. If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Roscoff.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Lundy. Aye. Trustee London.
Aye.
Trustee Special.
Aye.
All right, the ayes have it, and the presentation from Progressive Energy will be moved to after public comment on scheduled action items. Up next, we have a budget public hearing announcement, and Karen Johns will present this item.
Good evening. I wanted to formally announce that the Village of Sugar Grove will be having a public hearing for the proposed 2027 budget at 6 p.m. at the Sugar Grove Library immediately preceding the board meeting on April 7th. A copy of the draft budget will be available at Village Hall on that date, and a notice of this hearing was published in the King County Chronicle March 26th.
Oh, one at the time.
6 p.m.
Okay,
immediately preceding the board meeting.
thank you.
I'm sorry. A staff-led community budget information session and Q&A forum will be held at the library from 4:30 to 5:30 on April 7th. For any questions the public may have to meet with staff in an informal manner.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? All right. Thank you. Up next, we have appointments and a recommendation to appoint EEI as the engineer for the Village of Sugar Grove. Is there a motion and a second to discuss this item?
I'll make a motion to discuss and approve EEI.
We have a first from Trustee Special. Sorry. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
And a second from Trustee Lundy. Is there any discussion? If we could have roll call, please.
Trustee Special.
Aye.
Trustee Lundy. Aye. Trustee London.
Aye.
Trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and EEI is approved as the engineer for the Village of Sugar Grove. Up next, we have airport report. Trustee Special.
No report.
Thank you. Up next, we have public comment on scheduled action items. The consent agenda. Item 10A, we have approval of minutes of the March 3rd, 2026 Village Board meeting. 10B, approval of the vouchers. 10C, approval of the treasurer's report. General business, we have a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Bobcat Engelbroom from Atlas Bobcat, and a resolution authorizing myself to sign a snowplow agreement with BHMGU Settlers Ridge LLC for Settlers Ridge Areas 5 and 6. Is there anyone signed up for public comment this evening? Nope. Would anyone like to remove an item from the consent agenda? Is there a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda?
I'll make the motion.
We have a first from trustee Roscoff. Is there a second?
Second.
And a second from trustee Special. If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Lundy, Trustee London?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
The ayes have it, and the consent agenda is approved. General, actually, I said I would move the presentation from Progressive Energy until after this public comment. Are they?
Yeah, Arnie Schrammel is here. He's a few minutes late, but we've got the presentation ready. Arnie, if you don't mind coming up to the mic, and Tracy, if you could bring up the presentation, please. There should be a clicker on the dais there for you.
Okay, thank you. Sorry I'm late. I actually went to the wrong place. I wanted to talk to the village board a little bit about the review of the solar facility you guys put in at your water pumping station. And then your electric contract is coming up for renewal in May, and just talk a little bit about the options. Let's see.
Try one more time.
Okay. This was the original cash flow forecast for the solar field that you guys installed. The price was just over $1 million, and the two big incentive amounts were the federal investment tax credit, which the village of Sugar Grove qualified for 40%. There was a 30% normal tax credit at that time, and the village qualified for a 10% adder, being in an economic zone. Which most of this area is an economic zone, means that the unemployment rate in this area is higher than the national average. And that amount has already been received by the village, is my understanding. The other big incentive comes from the Illinois Power Authority, the SREC incentives. That's paid over the first 7 years, with the final payment in year 15. So those two items alone covered almost 90% of the total cost of the solar field. And then the rest is savings you guys get because you don't have to buy power off the grid. Going to the next slide. So the
Tracy, just have you click through for him if you don't mind.
yeah, if you can go to the next slide. So the other thing we wanted to check was the production of the solar field. Their estimated production for the first full year was 613,000 kilowatt hours. The actual production was just over 608,000, or roughly 99% of the expected volume. The production of solar fields is expected to decline 0.5% every year. That's as the panels get older, they get less efficient. So we'll be monitoring that every year to see what it is. You do have guarantees in your contract that your solar panels will produce like 85% of the expected volume. If you could go to the next slide. So currently, that facility is under a different electric contract than your other facilities. It's on what we call a hybrid contract, an on-peak, off-peak rate. And the reason that is because now that you have solar produces most of the power on on-peak. So most of the power that the village buys is now off-peak power. And we like to bifurcate that because you can see on the first bullet point, the off-peak rate is considerably lower than the on-peak rate. So roughly the solar field produces about 600,000 kilowatt hours a year, but you still buy about 1.1 million kilowatt hours off the grid. So that total facility uses about 1.8 million kilowatt hours a year. But the nice thing with solar is now that you're also buying most of your remaining power on off-peak. And just for information, on-peak is considered 9 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday, and everything else is off-peak, including holidays. So in the collar months, yeah, between when the sun's set at 4 o'clock, you're buying some power on peak. But for the most part, solar covers most of your on-peak power. So your current contract expires in May of this year. You need to sign, the village needs to sign a new contract by April 17th, picking a new supplier. Right now, we're probably recommending you stick with your current supplier. If you go to the next slide. They're currently Dynegy's your current supplier. They're currently the low price right now. Again, these prices change every day. Prices are up from your expiring contract. Energy prices are up, as most of you know, all over the place. Most of electricity is driven by just increased demand. Most of you heard about the data centers. For many years, we had about 15 years where the actual growth in electricity was near zero. So even though we were adding people and stuff, the appliances that were coming out, air conditioners coming out, refrigerators, washing machine, they're all getting much more efficient, lighting. So the net growth was zero, but now with the data centers coming in, the growth is projected at 2.5% to 3% a year. And that's really what's driving the pricing up. Like I tell people in the ComEd zone, we don't have any coal plants left, and they're not coming back. The ones in the ComEd zone have been torn down and destroyed. It's been mostly replaced by natural gas peaker plants and then some wind and some solar. But if we keep having these growth in data centers, I don't think they're all going to get built, but a bunch of them will get built. We're going to have some supply constraints for the next 5 to 7 years as we build out additional power sources. So what we're recommending is, you move forward somewhere, you guys picked a term, 2, 3, or 4 year contract, continue with the on-peak, off-peak. Again, it's only the electric contract for the water pumping station, but it is the largest electric user in the village.
So with this potential growth, Arnie, would you recommend a longer-term contract if you see this growth continuing, or do you think what's the Progressive Energy stance on the term you'd recommend?
Yeah, right now, most of our customers are signing 3 or 4 year deals because the price is pretty flat. And I mean, nobody's got perfect knowledge, but the feeling is prices are gonna continue to move up because they're building the data centers much faster than they're building power plants. So we're getting a squeeze on the market. In Illinois, we're really got a lot of data centers on the board. Again, they won't all get built. A lot of them are gonna be local. I mean, as you know, there's a big one out south of DeKalb. They're planning on building another one just as big, just west of that. Sugar Grove has one on the board. Aurora's got 3 built, 1 more being built. And then Yorkville, who knows? I mean, they got 17 on the board in Yorkville. They're probably not all gonna get built, but there's a good chance half of them get built, so. And this is just this area. We're not counting Joliet or Wheeling or up in the O'Hare corridor where there's potentially more. Illinois has historically been, forever, basically been exported electricity. Illinois has produced more electricity than we use. That could easily shift in the next 5 years. They're talking about bringing in some big transmission lines in from Iowa, even potentially Missouri, Kansas, into the Illinois corridor, because we'll probably, in the future, not distant future, 3 to 5 year future, going to be actually a net importer of electricity. That's all I really had. To open it up to any questions the board may have.
Do you mind going back to that projection? There was one more there. So do you anticipate our costs being what they are, $1,043,000, and that income stream basically coming in the future?
Yeah, I mean, this chart is forecasting flat electric prices.
Okay.
I think that's extremely conservative. I mean, we know already the current residents, including me, we're paying around 9.8 cents for power today. Just power, not distribution and taxes. I know that's going to 11 cents in June. That's already written in stone. So everybody is already looking at least a 10% price increase in June. That's a ComEd customer. But yeah, I mean, I tell people I buy this, I got solar in our house, we got it in our office, and our systems are like 6 years old. And at that time, the payback was about 7 years. Your system, the payback was, 5.5 years. It's probably gonna, and that was with lower electric prices, but, my payback ended up being about 5 years for my own system. I think your system will actually, the total payback will be 4.5 to 5 years. And they got a good run, and then, you're kind of really almost getting free electricity. You do have like $5,000 maintenance contract to make sure the solar panels work, the inverters work. We recommend, and you guys are doing it, just to make sure your system keeps up and running.
Is there any other federal incentives coming out where we should maybe look at our public works facility?
Yeah, the solar is expiring. You have to have projects started by July 3rd of this year. The 30% solar incentive is basically gone away. The one big incentive is out there is battery incentives. The state of Illinois has really beefed up the battery incentives, and the tax credit there is generally around 40% also. So between the state of Illinois incentives and the federal incentives, again, you're getting 90% of the cost paid. And batteries really have even a quicker payback, but we're seeing 2 or 3 years. We are putting something together for your village administrator to look at batteries at a couple of your sites. We're not ready yet, but if it looks good to your village staff, I'm sure that'll come back to the board here.
So the idea for us with the long-term use of the pumps at the well house, especially the ground storage tank and the pumps there, if we can avoid using on-peak power at all costs, so we would use the batteries during the day and then charge them when it's much cheaper at night, that's where the battery payoff for us would be huge. Brad has some of his team looking at our SCADA system to try to fill the ground storage tank at night when the power is cheaper. But we still want to make sure that we utilize our solar power, right? So if we ever had extra, which we typically will not, we could use that to charge the batteries as well, which is even a better payback for us. So when the incentives are present, that's when we're looking at it. And we did, when we decided to go with the Arbor Avenue project, we did look at several other buildings and sites, whether it was roof mounted or other land that we owned. This was the best bang for our buck at the time, and it was the one that made the most sense, and the water fund could afford to do it it had the capital sitting there to get the payback. And then again, every dollar saved with these energy savings is going to be on the water rates of the community. So it turned out to be a heck of a project. So thank you, Arnie, and thank you for the board investing in that project, because it turned out very well for us.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
So just a quick poll, if you don't mind. So we'll need to bring back the contract at the next meeting, because our meetings in April are the 7th and the 21st. The thought would be from the recommendation from Progressive, and then as well just from the trends, to bring back a long-term agreement to the next village board meeting for approval.
Yep.
If that's okay?
4 years.
Yes.
That's good.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
All right, up next, we have general business, a resolution authorizing the purchase of a Bobcat Angle Broom from Atlas Bobcat. Is there a motion and a second to discuss and vote on the
I'll make that motion.
Thank
I'll
you.
second.
We have a first from trustee Special and a second from trustee Michael. Brad Merkel will be presenting this item.
Good evening. Staff has requested an angle broom for the skid loader for doing, various repairs around town and sweeping our village-owned parking lots. So, I was gonna put it in the budget next year, but Karen recommended I bring it before this year because the budget's in a little better shape. So, it's not in the budget, but we have the surplus.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? The one discussion I have before I forget, could we also consider that robot mower so that we can talk about?
I'm gonna do some research on that when
Thank
we're
you.
ready. Yep.
All right, any other
Thank you.
discussion? If we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee London? Trustee London?
Aye. Aye.
Trustee Roscoe?
Aye.
All right, right, the ayes have it, and the Bobcat Angle Broom from Atlas is authorized. Up next, we have a resolution authorizing the signing of a snowplow agreement with BHMGU Settlers Ridge LLC for Settlers Ridge Areas 5 and 6. Is there a motion and a second to discuss on this and vote on this item?
I'll make that motion.
We have a first from trustee Special. Is there a second?
I could second.
And a second from trustee Roscoff. Danny Marion will be presenting this item.
So just like the board has recently approved snowplow agreements with Lennar and the Grove for Crown, we also need to update the existing snowplow agreement for Settlers Ridge Areas 5 and 6 with BHMGU Settlers Ridge LLC. We currently have an existing snowplow agreement that is outdated with the previous developer for Settlers Ridge. So before you is a updated one with BHMGU.
Thank you. Is there any discussion? All right, if we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special?
Aye.
Trustee Roscoff?
Aye.
Trustee Lindy?
Aye.
Trustee London?
Aye.
Trustee Michaels?
All right.
The ayes have it, and the snowplow agreement is approved. Up next, we have public comment. Would anyone like to make a public comment? All right. Hearing none, we will close public comment at this time. Up next, we have discussion items. Up first is Data Center Zoning District. Scott Keppel and Danny Marion will present this item.
I'll let Danny introduce the item. I'm also listed on there for the economic development perspective and can help answer questions about our district.
Sure, so recently the topic of possibly amending the data center district or the data center requirements within our village code has come up. The village adopted an ordinance creating a data center district in 2022. This was in response to the village being approached by a data center, and the board wished to streamline the process for data centers if they wish to locate within the village, and also to incorporate strict requirements that must be met by any data center within our village. Currently, data centers are a permitted use in the DC Data Center District, M1 Limited Manufacturing District, and the I1 Light Industrial District, with additional conditions. There currently is no land within the village zoned DC or I1, so if a data center wanted to locate in either of those districts, they would need to find land and apply for rezoning. The additional conditions include a minimum lot size, yard and setback requirements, lot coverage, structure height, architecture and landscaping, and performance standards. There is also a wastewater standard that limits the wastewater flow rates to 6 population equivalents per acre. This was put in place to help limit the amount of water usage. Moving forward, the board primarily has 4 options. The first option would be to not change anything with the data center requirements within the village code. Option 2 would be to adjust some of the additional requirements for data centers, such as building height. Option 3 would be to amend the permitted use table, such as eliminating the data center district and just keeping data centers as either a permitted use in the M1 and I1 district, or amending the table and making them special uses. And the final option would be to remove data centers completely from the code, making them entirely not permitted within the village. I would like to note that any already approved PUDs or PDDs, any changes that you make to the data center district would not apply to those existing PUDs and PDDs.
No, I'm happy to answer questions as well.
I had asked for this to be on the agenda today. Not so, I don't think we need to reinvent the wheel and, go back and forth about the pros and cons of data centers. But what I don't love is that we have this ordinance on the book. So if something, for example, was limited manufacturing right now, a data center would come in. This ordinance is on the book, so it already says, if you meet these requirements, it wouldn't have to go in front of both boards for these specific requirements. Considering our residents have expressed many times that they are concerned about the first data center, that may be coming in. I don't think they would be happy if a second one came in, and then we didn't even have the ability to make all of the decisions at the board level. I personally would like to see a moratorium on data centers. That is what Aurora did, and then they went and they researched and they came out with some very strict standards. These standards, it says right in there, they wanted it to be easier in 2022 for a data center to come in. They were trying to attract a data center that ended up going to DeKalb. Currently, though, we are not trying to attract data centers, so I don't think this should be on the books to make it easier. Just wondering how the board feels.
I would like to keep the ordinance in place. I think based on what I've read about Aurora and their new ordinance for data centers, I like some of the standards that they put in place. Noise seems to be a primary issue, and I'd like to adopt some new noise ordinances and follow Aurora's lead. It sounds like they've done a lot, but I think for economic development, data center does, brings in a lot of taxes, doesn't generate a lot of truck traffic, which has always been a concern with any new development that comes into town. So if we could mitigate some of the concerns now, keep this ordinance in place, I'm in favor of just amending what we have.
So if I could touch on the noise and what they ended up doing in Aurora. They put in distance from residential, depending upon if the chillers were ground mounted or roof mounted, and also dependent upon if the generators were ground mounted or roof mounted. They also have some noise standards in there for the amount of noise and the time the noise can be generated, and then the time of day that the generators can run. So that's the way that they decided to control noise. Noise is not something that we currently have as a specific in our data center DC district. You'll note the max building height in the M1 and the L1 from discussions and research that I've done. Those the 40 feet and 35 feet are not sufficient for a modern data center. The 65 feet is for a single story data center. So that is one where likely if anybody were to want to come build one here, that they would ask to be rezoned to DC for that reason. And that is the reason why, from my research back from when the village adopted this shortly before I started, that was the common building height request from a modern data center that's built. So if we did want to look at the noise options, Danny and I can go research what we're able to do. Obviously, Aurora being home rule and us non-home rule, we would have to see what, with the village attorney, what would be within our breadth of authority, and then we could bring that potentially as a text amendment to the planning commission, if that's the board's will.
So if we already know, so when you say that wastewater was addressed in here, it was almost like a to be continued sort of phrasing. So I think that wastewater needs work. I think there's no noise addressed in here. The 65-foot height, I don't know that residents would be comfortable with. So if we have to rewrite this, much of this entire thing, especially to adopt some of what Aurora did, because what they said was really comprehensive. It's going to take some time and research. I just don't know why we would keep this one on the books and modify everything about it. Wouldn't it be easier to repeal this one, do the research, and then pass something that we agree on? I mean, it's a completely different ordinance we'd be looking at.
I'm sorry, so my understanding is if we don't have a data center zoning, then it's just permitted as special use in these otherwise, or we don't have it zoning, so then do we have to just guess where it goes?
So currently, a data center is also a permitted use in M1 and I1. So if you eliminate the data center district, they can still build in M1 and I1. If they need a different building height, they'd obviously have to come for a variance on building height. But if they can meet that building height and all the other requirements in the M1 and I1 district, they could just build.
Right, so we have no data center district right now. Anybody who would come to try to get a data center district would have to come before the board and everything because they're asking for rezoning anyway.
But that's all we would be able to do. So like if they were in light manufacturing, and then they would be able to do it if they met all of this ordinance.
Right, I don't think we have any light manufacturing, and the only M1 we have, there are some that concerning that might be big enough for it, but the bulk of M1, from my understanding, from looking at, is the airport.
Yes,
But there are some areas, like right here, that might be big enough that's,
yes.
I'm assuming that there's a PUD over here, that's a PUD, and so if it doesn't have,
Yeah, that has a PUD,
and
that is a really old PUD, so it does not have data centers listed,
So
I
it
don't
could-
believe.
so it probably couldn't go there. I think we need to really look at it and tighten up these restrictions on it, absolutely. I did a lot of research, I don't know how much we can do as non-home rule. I know that I read some articles, University of Michigan had some that was great. They referenced the German Energy Efficiency Act as kind of a model way of doing it, trying to encourage them to use green energy. Also very strict on making them do energy audits on a regular basis, transparency to the public. I think there's a lot of stuff, if we can get it in there and what we're allowed to put in there, I think we need to look at. Because, you know, a lot of things have changed since 2022. And I don't know how much of a big deal is it to have a data center? Because right now, the way the code is written, it all references the M1 and the light industrial all reference the data center zoning.
Mhm.
So if you take the data center zoning out, you still have to leave that in there, you just have to rename it because it's exactly this.
Yep.
Because when you look it up, it says, oh, if you wanna do a data center, go see data center zoning, you have to follow that.
So in your opinion, so some of what you said, if we had to allow them, some of what you said are the restrictions that I would like to see. So are you saying that we should take the research and amend this, or scrap this and rewrite it, a new ordinance with all the things that I'd like to see?
I think we have to rewrite anyway, if we're all looking at doing some stricter stuff, and I think doing our due diligence, there's a lot more information now, and I think it's a time that we need to look at it anyway with all the new information. Because from the understanding is data centers are either going to suck more energy or suck more water. It's gonna be one or the other until they get some other way of, cooling their systems. And this, I believe, only addressed the water use. And I know if you listen to the discussion on here, I was very hesitant with the height of the 65 because I went back and listened to the discussion we had. But I don't know, we're gonna have to modify it because if we're already allowing it in those two zonings, in particular in M1, because we have M1, and we have an M1 area that could potentially be big enough that's vacant. So, and right now, if we just we have to modify because M1 references the data center zoning. And you might have to rename it or something, but we're gonna have to modify it. We can't just say, do nothing, take data centers out and then do nothing, then you're not modifying the restrictions on data centers because this references it.
I just wanted to clarify too, the data center district does limit water to 6 PE per acre. It is strictly limited.
Yeah,
So, Brian was suggesting that we make it a permitted special use, but put all of the restrictions that we want under the special use requirements as opposed to
Right, and
rewriting this specific ordinance, correct?
so you have, right now, it's a permitted use in the data center M1 and I1. Instead of having it as a permitted use, have it a special use. What you could do then is apply the standards that are set forth in the general special use. This is what the Planning Commission and the Zoning Board of Appeals considers. And then you can also look at section 11.423 has additional standards for specific uses. Within that section, create a data center section that it brings
Right.
these additional concerns in. And then you have the the approval process starts as a special use application, goes to the board, the zoning board, considering those other additional standards in 11.423. And then you can, I mean, this, for what you have so far, you can build it upon this.
That's what I'm
and then
saying,
add-
we have to modify that no matter what, because that's our basis, whether it's special use, which gives more, which is plus and minus. It gives more input from the
Right.
public and from the board on that. It also, though, is, Sean might be able to do a little bit, answer this a little bit more, but I think it might put kind of a caution flag on developers that are coming through, because special use is a difficult thing to go through, and it's a costly thing to go through. So, those are the pros and cons on that, so.
And if I may, it is, they have to apply, it's not guaranteed,
Mhm,
you know.
right.
And so there will be a process to consider all of the concerns of both the zoning board and the planning commission and board of trustees as well.
To back up, some of the reasoning behind creating a data center district was they could get the land rezoned data center district as part of the purchase or during the due diligence period, get that approved, and then be able to have the ability to build it. That was one of the criticisms of our previous code or other codes from an economic development perspective, was that a special use it can oftentimes be difficult and expensive, and then there's no guarantee that it's gonna happen. Now, that doesn't mean that that can't be the route the board goes, but that's the reason why the village at the time chose to go with the data center district, because it's easier to just rezone land and know what the rules are, because the rules are established in code, and know what you potentially would have to get a variance for, because it's spelled out, and that was the reason that this was done.
Right.
Can we,
So, I would say something.
Yeah.
You know, my concern is, you know, we have one data center on the table right now. We don't know what the impacts of that is. I mean, you know, a lot of us, you know, I'm against data centers myself, a lot of people are, and we don't know what the impacts are. I mean, there's impacts on water, impacts on electricity. You know, if we approve, I'm not saying it's down the road, is we make it easier for data centers to come into our town, and we don't know the impact of just the first data center we have. You know, why make it easier? Why not restrict them and see what happens to the first data center? I mean, I think we should have a moratorium on them, I believe. If we don't, I think it should be very strict. So I mean, there's other ways to make, you know, to try to tax base here besides data centers.
so you would be in favor of a moratorium?
Yes.
Would you be in favor of a special use over permitted?
No,
You
I
want
wanna,
permit?
yeah, I think we need to be competitive with the surrounding market to get data centers, and, by going with the special use, we won't be competitive, and, you know, what economic development opportunities do we have? Retail's not coming. People don't want warehousing or distribution because of the truck traffic. So to help out our residents and diversifying the tax base, I think data centers is a good way to go. We can limit where they go by some of these restrictions. I think data centers are becoming more community-friendly and user-friendly, realizing the pushback that they're getting. We have a lot of infrastructure running through town. We might as well use it with the 134K lines, gas transmission lines. So Sugar Grove's set up for this. We have a lot of good fiber running along I-88 that we could take advantage of. And, you know, people might not like the noise, but I think we can address that. I think they're becoming more economical or ecologically friendly. And we need to be in business to help bring in new development to our community. And I think this is one of the keys that we have to look at.
Trustee London, so the board is kind of split, I'm wondering how you feel. Would you be in favor of keeping them permitted, making it a bit more difficult as a special use, or a moratorium on them entirely?
I'd be more inclined to hold them up and really reevaluate what we want to do with them. One of my biggest concerns with the data centers, we've covered the water issue, but it's the additional increase in energy costs that our residents are going to end up paying because everybody's fighting for how much power they can get. And when you have a resource that is got to be shared like that, we end up paying additional costs. So I think we need to kind of maybe take a step back and find out what we really want to accomplish with this. I do agree with the comments about, when we have to look at it from economic development, what's best for our community, but also weigh against the fact that we have a lot of residents that are not happy about the potential for it. So we need to, I think, educate ourselves and the population as to where we want to go with this.
If I may, so we have a power expert here. Arnie, if you don't mind coming up to the mic. When it comes to the power concern, we're all part of the PJM, we're all ComEd. If the data center is built in Sugar Grove or it's built in Yorkville, does that matter as far as the rates that would potentially be paid by a Sugar Grove resident?
Unfortunately not. Sugar Grove resident pays the same rate as Yorkville. So if Yorkville's gonna put in 10 data centers and suck up a ton of power off the grid, everybody in the ComEd zone is gonna pay for that.
And how far does that zone stretch just to?
Well, the ComEd zone runs from the Iowa border to the Wisconsin border, basically to Bloomington to Indiana. And then the greater PJM regional transmission grid runs all the way to Maryland, Pennsylvania, New Jersey.
If I may, I see this question about electric use and raising it, similar to Route 47 I-88 with truck traffic. If we don't approve a use in Sugar Grove, that use tends to go outside the community, and then we still get burdened with the truck use. So, if we don't approve a data center, the data center is going to go somewhere else, and our residents are going to have to pay the higher electric rates. So we need some economic development in the community, and I know it's not perfect, and I think we're heading in the right direction by revisiting the ordinance, but I think we need to keep the, we're open for business sign out.
The problem is that data centers is not bringing jobs. It's bringing money in, but it's not doing anything except it's just the tax base. Yeah, you want tax base, but that land is just, it's sucking up resources, sucking up electricity, it's sucking up water, and it's not bringing jobs. So, I don't think I think there's better uses for it. Yeah, I'd rather have a vacant farmland than a data center.
Trustee Special, how do you feel about this? Thank you very much.
Well, I'm in favor of economic development, but we want to be good neighbors, so we have to look at our economic development for the community. It's always a balancing act because you do need property tax revenue. Yes, it's always good to have jobs, etc. So I'm not seeing to jump right into banning them or eliminating them. But what I've heard between the Aurora ordinance and some of the items that Heidi mentioned sound like excellent avenues for us to review and include, so.
To clarify, would you be okay then moving it from permitted use to special use?
Not 100%, I guess I think you have M1 at 40 feet and I1 at 35 feet. And I guess it's, I wasn't able to quite follow Heidi's map on exactly where they're gonna go. So I'm not 100% clear.
These are the M1s, and this PUD doesn't include it, but these are all the other M1s that we have. And this area,
And off of Wheeler,
yeah, off of.
by the north of the airport, there's some land, and there's some land behind, or west of the public works.
This area in here.
Yeah,
It's
so,
open.
yes,
And
we
then-
obviously have areas that we need to address this and make sure that it's properly addressed.
Heidi, if I understood you correctly, you're wanting special use? With
I
that restriction?
think what I'd like is currently, since we now have an M1 that could move in with our current data center thing, we move it to special use in case someone could tomorrow come in for that M1 location and go off just what we have now, which I think needs to be revisited and more things put down. Then revisit if we can form a data center with restrictions that we're happy with, then move it into permitted potentially. But move it as special use right now, just because we don't have that safety. I mean, someone could walk in tomorrow, say, hey, this area we want here's our zoning, here's our requirements. And I'm not happy with these requirements right now, with the stuff that we've learned since 2022. So I'm good for special use for right now, but concerned with what that sends for economic development. I'm using it as a stopgap to see if then we can shape it into what we want. If we can shape it into what we want, we're like, hey, if it meets this, 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 and this, we don't have a problem, then we can put it to permitted use. So I'm kind of a hybrid there.
Tony, do you agree?
So you're saying to just add one?
Well, we don't have any light industrial, so that would have to come as a rezoning.
And the same with the TC?
That would have to come to rezoning, so we kind of have a stopgap there. I mean, there's a pause there in a sense, because they would have to go through the process of rezoning. What concerns me is we do have a parcel that doesn't have to do that, and it would be going off of what we have right now.
Yeah. I mean, I can see that point, and now that I'm actually looking at the zoning map, I do have the same concerns that Heidi brought up. I just wish we had, I don't want it to be a special use and not
Right.
move with the additional requirements.
Mm-hmm.
So, I mean, yes, I think I'm saying what Heidi is saying.
Okay, so to summarize then, we don't have enough support today for a moratorium. We do have enough support to move it to a special use while all of the regulations are adjusted and we work on that. So can we add it to the consent agenda next time to change to special use?
We have to have a public hearing with the plan commission to amend the zoning table, so it'll be a few meetings, but yeah.
Thank you.
And that there's a lot of good information that we can look at. I like the sound requirements that Aurora set forth. And then we can then, if we get something we like, move it back to permitted if we want.
Are you wanting to just move M1 to a special use and leave the others as permitted, or move all three?
I think the attorney,
Well, see, here's the other thing too, and I'm just, without totally, these restrictions only apply in the data center district right now, right?
I think there is, no, I think
No.
M1 and I1, there's language in there that references that
No,
section
It references
for a
that.
data center.
Yeah, it has an asterisk, you look at the asterisk, that pulls you straight to that.
Okay.
That's why I was saying, that has to be amended,
Yeah.
in the sense, if you want to amend any of them, you have to amend that one, because they all point to that.
Well, then, I mean, what you can do is, again, with the additional standards for specific uses section, have that for data center in any section of the code with data center, and you can have these various things and then add, without going specific water restrictions, additional electricity, whatever the heck we want to add to it. But yeah, that's more than just kind of changing this to special use. And you should have, like, so for example, I'm just showing the mayor right now, banquet halls have additional restrictions in specific uses, or special uses, so we should do that for data centers.
They currently should.
Right.
If our code was not codified properly, there
Okay.
should be an
So-
asterisk next to the permitted use for data centers across the board for all three zoning districts.
What's the asterisk?
The asterisk indicates that there's additional standards that apply to that use that must be met, and then you go
And it-
down the page and it gives you all the additional standards.
It references you back to the.
And I have found some other uses in our table that did not have the asterisk, that should have had the asterisk, so it might be a Scrivener's thing when we codify.
So it does say regulated by chapter 10B of this title, but that refers back to 10B.
Yeah,
Which is data
that's-
center, so like, we should clarify the standards set forth in 10B apply to data centers throughout.
Mhm.
But then the question is, do you want to, like Trustee Letty was saying, are there additional standards you want to set forth in 10B? Because this was 2022, I don't know if there's new,
yes, there
Right.
are additional
Yeah.
standards, and in the meantime, because that is a time-consuming research project, can we make M1 special use?
Just have one.
Yeah. And because there's no chance of the other two, there's no chance of anyone proposing the other two.
They have to come for rezoning, and that would come before you and the plan commission.
Okay. So,
And after today's discussion, if I was approached by a data center developer that wanted to come to Sugar Grove, I would say that we're currently looking at M1, making it a special use. and that we are reevaluating our data center district, and that it is unlikely to get rezoned during the evaluation period. However, it's not impossible, but it's unlikely to happen. But we would very much like to talk to you after we're done updating our regulations, as they are, 4 years old, and this is a changing, a lot more have been built. There's been a lot more effect on central Illinois, so we want to make sure that we get it right. That's what I would tell a developer if we were approached.
So does staff have time to update this ordinance in the next couple of months, or is this something that we need to get help on? Because,
Aurora just sent us all that information, so we can all look it over and
yeah,
maybe make it another board discussion item as well, which of Aurora's items we want to adopt as the same discussion item. Heidi has information as well, so we can hash it out, but I do think we should do it after budget time, because we
Oh,
really have a budget crunch, and we really hash that out.
no, I'm good with that. I just,
And there's no pending data center
I
that's
know.
waiting.
Yeah, it's a chicken or the egg, but I'd like to move it forward, by June or July, so it doesn't take
Yeah, we
long.
can even start diving into what we have from Aurora and see if it's something that we,
I agree with President Stoll. I think our recommendation from staff would be in one of the May meetings that we have it on the agenda again as a discussion item, so that we can clearly identify the items that the board has concerns with. We'd also highly recommend members of the public, if they have concerns that they have, that they submit that to community development. We'll put out a post about it. We'll put information on our website. As always, public comment, please come in and mention in May what your concerns are, and then we can craft restrictions based on those concerns. We can speak to some of our neighbors that have gone through some of these recently to get ideas of how they tackled those concerns as well, and then bring that back to the Plan Commission and say, these are the concerns the board outlaid, this is how we would approach those concerns, whether for noise, it's distance from residential, or, maximum sound at the lot line, or whatever it happens to be, that we can regulate as a non-home rule community. And then those would go to Plan Commission, where then they would work on updating the data center district, and eventually would come to the village board for final approval.
Has Metro West addressed this at all with member communities?
So they have not specifically, because one of the things with data centers is that it is the topic is very controversial. So they typically will lobby and work together on items that are like LGDF, like every, protect the tax revenue, or, protect rights for villages. But since there are some Metro West communities that really want data centers and some that don't, they've kind of stayed out of the way, other than offered to educate and bring information forward. So, but I'll send more information that I can collect and Danny can collect out to the village board as well, and to the community. We'll start to put some information on our website and ask for feedback, so that we can help collect that and then report back.
I think I sent you a copy of this.
Yeah.
So,
I'll
okay,
share it.
all
I've
right,
read
so
it
you can
as
share it, so,
well, and I'll happily
yeah.
share it out.
There's- yeah.
All right, is there any other discussion? Thank you. Up next, we have budget workshop, general fund. Budget workshop, general fund. Karen Johns will present this item.
Nora, did you have something, I'm sorry, to share before we move on?
No, this just went dead. I couldn't hear a thing.
Oh, okay.
Good evening. I had sent out in the board packet a preliminary draft of the general fund budget for fiscal year 2027. I wanted to share that this budget, sorry, my notes got a little crazy here, that we are projecting a surplus of over 30,000 for next fiscal year. And I wanted to go over some of the main highlights for the changes in the general fund next year. The general fund budget includes some dramatic increases to revenue and expenses due to the projection of 194 homes. The location of those homes has been placed in front of you at your table. The
Karen,
Oh.
I'm curious, it says 205.
Yes, since originally doing the budget, there's been some subdivision of homes where original single-family homes were changed to duplexes.
Okay.
So there has been some updates. That is the most up-to-date figures that staff has received.
And you got this number from Brighton Ridge directly for 126?
Yes, Danny reached out to all the developers and they provided the projections.
Seems pretty aggressive.
Can I ask you a question? Why does it show Bright Ridge none for after 27? Did they put numbers there? So 0 for every year after that.
I'm sorry, you said for Brighton Ridge?
Yeah, it just shows 126 for 27, but 28 0.
That would, I don't believe they submitted a number after that.
Okay.
The total allotment that they have that's approved is 332 homes and townhomes together, so.
Mhm.
Okay.
Overall, state shared revenues per capita will decrease for fiscal year '27, with the amount decreasing from $231.99 to, increase to $237. One of the other large effects throughout the year is medical insurance. We are projecting a 10% increase in medical insurance starting January 1 of '27. This year, premiums increased from 5.21 to 16.29, depending on the individual's plan, with an overall increase of 10%, 10.44%. Wanted to share some great news on how we are projecting to end fiscal year '26. General fund is projected to end with a surplus of $178,000, which includes an additional $225,000 that will be recommended as an increase in interfund transfers before the end of the year. That will be split between capital fund and police pension funds. If the board is okay, I'm going to skip over the other highlights for the '26 budget year end and want to talk about some of the changes for fiscal year '27. As I said before, staff is proposing slightly over $31,000 for a budget surplus, which includes 100% funding for vehicle and equipment replacement transfers throughout all departments, full staffing in the police department, community property enhancement program funding increasing from $20,000 this year to $30,000 next year, and a continued maintenance of all facilities and equipment. Total revenues are expected to increase 4.52%, and expenses are estimated to increase 6.23%. I've highlighted some of the increases or the changes in general fund revenues and wanted to go over some of the general fund fee recommendations that staff has.
The franchise agreement with MetroNet, is that because T-Mobile took over MetroNet?
That is because MetroNet stopped providing cable service. They only provide internet now in Sugar Grove, and franchise agreements only pay us for cable service fee.
Some of the additions that are not included in this budget before you, but recommendations for fee adjustments, are the new home permit maximum fee to increase by CPI, which is 2.9%, from $17,850 to $18,360. Increase the price of trees for new construction from $550 per tree to $600 to cover the tree price increase.
Could I ask a question on that? Are we committed to planting trees through annexation agreements for Brighton Ridge or Settlers Ridge subdivision?
That has been the current practice, and since it is in an easement, we have to make sure prevailing wage is paid, and I believe that's why we've typically done it in the past.
A builder is typically paying about $400 a tree. So this is taking staff's time to monitor this and do this, so, I think if, I'd recommend that we get out of the tree business and allow the developers to put them in if we want, and they usually have a 1-year warranty that they have to make sure that the trees are still growing, so we should have a warranty period on it. But,
Brad, if you could weigh in on our practice and why we do it the way we've done it. If you don't mind.
I think that one of the big reasons that we started doing the planting in-house is to keep spacing appropriate, so we're not ending up with fire hydrants right on streetlight poles or next to driveways and stuff like that, the trees, and to monitor the quality and the species, to adhere to what we want.
yeah.
It is a little bit of work for staff, but it's not really that cumbersome. And the prevailing wage is only for new construction. Replacement doesn't charge prevailing wage. So if they're replacing, it's just standard, so it's cheaper.
Yeah. But, if we're projecting, and I think it's high, the 205 units, obviously the rate's gonna go up, or the amount of work's gonna go up. And monitoring those trees year after year, I just think it's a way that we could lower our budget and not, and put the burden back on the developer and the builder. That's just my input.
Do we have any ability to put it I mean, that's a good idea to have the builder pay, but at this point, it's too late to require that from the builder, probably.
The builder
These
has
aren't-
to pay.
Yeah, the builder pays us back.
Oh.
We get reimbursed, it's no cost to the
Do
village.
we lose money by
So
us
in
doing
the
this?
last fall planting, we lost a few dollars in each tree because the prevailing wage went up in between last year's budget and this year's budget, but not a lot.
Not a lot.
I don't have that number in front of me, but I can get it.
Is that why
Okay.
you went from 550 to 600?
Yes.
Okay, so then,
And tree
What
prices
percent?
went up, everything's went up.
so projecting, we would not lose money if we're doing this
Correct.
planting.
That's where we came up with that figure.
Yes,
Yeah.
but we would be ensuring the quality of the trees and that they're maintained. And they're placed in a safe location.
Right.
I have no problem with
Yeah.
that.
Well, a builder has to, personally, we've had to move trees because we had too close to a fire hydrant when the engineers went out and, or a manhole. There is some oversight of the lots, and a builder, developer would be responsible to make sure that they were far enough from a street light or a fire hydrant or a manhole, and if they are not, then they'd have to move them at their expense. It's not necessarily the expense of what we're paying, but it's the opportunity cost. If we have to add more staff to monitor this at some point, you have, salaries and benefits that we're paying. Again, a builder could do this at $400 versus the $600, so they would see some savings. And, it's easy to keep passing everything on to the home owner or the home builder, but they pass it on to the home buyer, which drives up the cost. So this isn't something I want to spend, lose a lot of political capital on, but I want to bring it to people's attention that, we can keep nickel and diming these building permits, but at some point, it really starts to add to the cost of development, sugar growth.
No, I understand that. But this ensures that we pick what species of tree.
Heidi, we could do that through our ordinance, and we have a tree species list of approved parkway trees. So there's a way to monitor that.
We honestly have resident complaints about every builder currently building though. I don't wanna add, they're putting the trees in the wrong place and everything else, like if
They-
Brad
they
says it doesn't
would
take
have
much
to.
time, I believe it.
They'd have to move them, but I just want to bring it to people's attention.
No.
I currently support the ordinance that we have. It truly has a lot to do with the quality of trees. And because these are parkway trees that then the village is required to maintain for the life of the tree.
Yep.
So I think it's a great program. I think it works out well. And as long as we've got our costs covered, I think we need to just continue the way we have it.
We also
Thank
did include in that $600 fee a slight administration overhead percentage to make sure we're covering staff time as well.
Oh,
But we're also proposing raising the new permit fee by, was it, $800, $600?
The maximum fee, yes.
Yeah. So- And that doesn't apply to all the new building that's going on. Some of the developers have locked-in permit fees today.
Correct.
So we're hurting the custom builder, the builders that are not privy to a recent annexation agreement. Okay.
One other addition that staff has been discussing was a building application fee to cover the cost of reviewing. That would, we want to make sure we're recovering our costs for building permits that do not move forward and the staff time that's attributing for those. If this is something the board is open to, I've seen them written in ways that will apply to the future permit if it's approved, or it's a flat fee that sticks for everyone.
I apologize. I thought we're charging $260 for plan review. I pay plan review fee every time I bring in an application. I have to bring in 4 permits, or 4 sets of plans, which runs about $150, and a check for $260 at that time.
Danny, do you want to talk a little bit more about this one?
So I apologize.
No, those are good questions.
So this one has recently came up because we are barely covering our costs with the application fee for the initial reviews that are done. And we have new contractors coming in that are wanting to submit everything digitally, which is now causing us to have to print the plans ourselves if we need paper plans, which we at least need a couple sets of paper plans. So the intent was to increase it to cover some of that cost and then also the additional staff time with printing and putting together the plans.
So we do have an application fee already in place.
We have an application fee of $260, like Sean said,
Okay.
in place, but we have
And you're looking at increasing that to cover the cost of,
printing the plans, because we have developers wanting to go all digital now, not giving us, because before we would require so many sets of full-size plans
yeah.
with the things. So they're-
Everyone wants to go digital, and I'm one of those people who has to print stuff out to review.
And we're not in a place with the village for us to be able to review things completely digitally yet, so we have to print them.
Well, I have a question then, because Sean just said it costs $150, so are you proposing to submit everything digitally and your cost is $250 plus $150, since you have to print them?
We won't be printing as many plans as builders are required to submit. Because some of, like EEI is going to more where they review things more digitally now. They don't necessarily always need the paper copies. Some of our reviewers can get away with 11 by 17 sizes and not the full size, so there's not as much cost if we're not doing to the full size, full sets.
Well, it'd be nice if the village amended the requirements for submittals, and if we don't need 4 large prints, to modify that. And maybe it's a cost plus, it's the $260 plus cost of printing or something else, but I just, again, want to raise caution and ask the village to look into it as opposed to just flat raising the fee and charge it back to the builder, which passes it on to the homeowners.
okay. Yeah, well, we can look at that.
Thank you.
The next recommendation was reviewing our plumbing fees to make sure, number one, that we are covering our plumbing inspection costs, and some clarification needs to be made to the fee code that this is not included in the 31 cent per square feet.
Did you, on the last question, did you need a consensus on whether the board wants to?
I'd like some direction on what fee ordinances to bring back at the final budget time.
So for the For the additional permit fee, can everyone say the
Oh, but I'm sorry, there's no fee information
Yeah.
included at all currently?
for the previous one we just discussed, I don't think there was a.
Where's that written down?
Page 5, the general fund fee recommendations. The new home permit max fee would increase by 2.9% from $17,850 to $18,360.
Right, no, I was talking about the plumbing and then the application fee.
Where's plumbing?
That is not in the memo. That was brought forward after.
Okay, if you can get us some information on that.
Okay.
And then also if we can, I think if we're looking at increasing the permit fee, the 2.9%, we might want to take a quick look at some of the other surrounding communities. I'm concerned, a little bit about us getting uncompetitive because we're pricing ourselves out. I know we did a hard look at the 17,850, but we're increasing it a lot. I don't know, is that 18,360 make it so we just cover our expenses in the future, or?
This is something that we would be looking at on an annual basis. So we can definitely bring back next week what the other communities are charging and how we compare to that.
Yeah, because I don't want to just go, oh, well, it's the next year, let's just increase it 2.9%. I mean, I want to know what's the reasoning behind it. Do we have to, because all of our expenses have gone up? Have the other communities done that as well, too? I'm just.
Otherwise, possibly we can charge the fee only if paper copies are needed.
But the permit fee should be based on inflation. I mean, it would show up every year based on just inflation costs. I don't see why it shouldn't go up. Yeah, the permit fee is one different story, but I think that the home permit fee should just go up based on CPI.
On that one, let's just make sure we're in the ballpark of the
Yeah,
other
make sure it's in the ballpark.
municipalities.
Was there consensus about trees to move forward with that?
Trees, I think everyone wants to keep the ordinance as it is. The $500 to $600 or the $600 is.
I don't think Sean
No,
does. but-
Sean
Well,
doesn't.
Well,
but I mean.
I do.
Yeah,
the majority.
Yeah.
Okay, that would come before the board as a ordinance in future. And you wanted additional information on the building application fee and increase in plumbing costs next week.
Yes, if you're.
This is optional revenues to be brought back for the board at a later date, but is the board wanting discussion on a places for eating tax of 1%?
Do other towns around us have that?
Some do, some don't.
I'm not in favor of it.
I'm welcome to bring back a survey of the surrounding communities as well, if you
I
would
don't
like.
think we should right now, but I think it'd be nice to know what the other ones do.
If we're, not projecting a surplus, and I think our surplus is gonna be larger than what's projected for this year. So I think our budget next year will probably, or our surplus will be larger next year. I don't see a need for additional revenue at this time.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I don't want to see a 1%
I agree.
additional.
But it'd be nice to know what the surrounding towns do, just curiosity.
Absolutely.
Future reference.
I will-
Yeah, I'm interested too
Yeah.
in the information, but at this point, I don't see.
So we'll bring back a survey outside of budget, and this is just a little bit of Karen being the new finance director doing due diligence. We're not necessarily
Appreciate that.
recommending that we need the
Yeah.
revenue at this time. We do have a balanced budget without it, but she's doing her due diligence to make sure the board's aware that this does exist and is an option.
Okay.
In the past, my recommendation has been, or I've seen other communities do, is if there's a project that comes up that we feel we need to do, and we want to have we need a revenue source for that project, I believe some communities, when they've had to borrow money for like a police station remodel or to build a fire station, they've implemented a places for eating tax to pay that bond debt. So that's where it's been done sometimes in the past when there was a need to do it. Right now, we do not have that need, but we wanted to just make you aware of it.
Thank you.
I can move on to the highlights of general fund expenditures if there were no other questions on or comments on revenues. Okay. Overall salaries have included a 3% cost of living increase as well as the step increase, which was previously established. And the patrol contract has already been brought before the board. The sergeant contract will be coming before the board shortly. Staff is requesting a couple additions in positions for fiscal year '27. A part-time building inspector of 250 hours, a maintenance worker, one budgeted for 6 months out of the water fund. That will come back in next week's discussion of the water fund. And a full-time fiscal clerk budgeted for 6 months. This additional salary cost would come out of the water fund, but there is some costs for benefits in the general fund. 25% of her benefits would come from the general fund.
I just want to comment quickly on these two positions. So we have a large number of new homes and also new water customers that are budgeted. However, if that doesn't come to fruition, that is why we're being cautious, and we're saying that if the homes are built and permitted and then the water fund revenues increase, we will come back at the 6 month with this request, but we would like permission to include the 6 month portion in the budget as of today. However, those positions will not be filled until this is discussed and reviewed with the board at that time, and we can show you the housing numbers and the permits that have been approved so far in the fiscal year when we come back and have that discussion. So that's the way we're kind of modeling this, is that Public Works and Finance believe that the additional work will be there with the additional water customers, and that it will be a need, but we do not want to, we're not the type, we're fiscally conservative, Karen and I, we don't want to fill the positions before the homes are built. So we do plan on bringing that back, and that's the method that we're proposing to do this.
So include it in the budget, but not fill it without board discussion and approval.
Correct, and only include 6 months of salary in the budget. So the earliest we can even afford to do it would be at the 6 month mark.
When you said 2 positions, though, there's 3 listed, are you asking for the building inspector and TJ?
Yes, that would be separate, and that would be, and Danny can come up and talk a little bit about that. That is, the building inspector's work comes a little bit earlier because we have 2 steps that need to happen, and we can farm some of it out to a third-party contractor, but we have both the review of the plans and then also some work that's done on site. Additionally, our full-time building inspector will sometimes do some code enforcement, was heavily involved in the motel. And we do have the capacity to have our part-time code enforcement officer work a little bit more and take some of that relief off of the building inspector, who will be working on more building permit work. So Danny can talk about that.
Yeah, so we're requesting for a part-time building inspector, because right now, we're not even at full capacity of what we're expecting this next year. And he is swamped with inspections and permit reviews, and it's just going to increase. The other thing is he takes time off. He has vacation, and we're having third-party inspectors fill in, which is an additional cost. And the company that we use typically just added a condition this past week that they have a 5 inspection limit, which makes it difficult because we usually schedule our inspections the day before. So if we don't have 5 inspections for them, we're gonna be paying for 3 inspections, we're paying for 5 for them to come out. So having that additional body as a building inspector can help fill in when Chris is off on vacation, and also help with the workload with the increased number of inspections we're going to have and the permit reviews as well.
The additional about it being a part-time position is if the increase we're seeing in building permits at this point doesn't continue, that it's easier to reduce hours or change a part-time position rather than adding another full-time position to the community development department.
Another aspect is our building inspector is going to be retiring in 2 years, within 2 years. So having somebody with a foot in the door, kind of getting trained under him, also would be a benefit.
Yeah, I know, having to deal with some of the companies that you went out, it is much better to have an in-house building inspector and code reviewers than to farm it out. And that's from the architectural end, it's from the homeowner end that I've experienced.
Builder end.
Yeah,
Yeah.
previously we've had companies that have missed a lot of things that have filled in years past. I think the company we have right now is pretty good, but there's some major misses with outside companies.
We want they're working for the village, the third-party companies do as well, but they work for the company, that's their paycheck, and it's just, it's a one level between, that if we can eliminate that, we generally get better work product just because of, it's our
Yes.
practices, it's trained by our staff, it's doing good work our way.
Yes, I like it in-house in all aspects, so.
Okay, I mean, I'm okay.
No objection. Okay.
For the large increase in IT services was an anticipated addition of a timekeeping software. This would be split between the general fund and the water sewer fund. Payroll becomes more complex every year, especially with the no tax for overtime provisions, and we need a more robust timekeeping system to help monitor some of these items.
What line item was that on the budget?
49.
That's the department.
I thought IT went up $100,000 or some large amount.
Isn't some of that from the
That was in
department?
IT services, 6307.
Uh,
01496307 is where that timekeeping
$53,000 to
system.
122.
I think,
Was-
Sean, you're talking page 2
Yeah,
of the blue line sheet.
okay.
It's right in the middle of it, general fund IT.
That was due to that's actually approximately $2,000 more than this year's projected year end. The telecommunication cost is trending about $8,000 above what was budgeted for fiscal year '26.
I think this is what you're talking about, isn't it?
And in the IT services line item above that, year-end projection is 70,000. Next year's projection is the 69,000. That increase from the previous year budget is largely due to the 8,500 increase in timekeeping.
There's a very large increase in the IT budget for police. It's not in the IT budget 49, it's in the police budget 51.
Okay.
That might have been the one, Sean, that you might be referencing.
Yeah.
Okay.
There's a very large increase there.
Okay.
Yeah, I think-
I knew it was somewhere. I apologize, I didn't have
Yeah, there are some IT-specific items for police. When we get to the police budget, I'm happy to talk about it, or I can add commentary as well for tonight.
Overall administration decreased due to some reallocation of staffing costs. The police department is budgeted at being fully staffed. There is an approximately 50,000 increase in police pension contribution. There's an increase in IMRF contributions due to an internal audit and some previous positions not being offered IMRF, which should be. And a new expense was added in IT services. I think this is what you may be referencing. There is $16,250 for a new records management system, which is required by TRICOM. Also the addition of $35,000 for Axon booking system.
So for TRICOM, they're going to a modern system, finally. That'll be like more of your traditional Windows screen rather than a green screen method that they'll be using for records management. It is not optional, and it is definitely something also that will improve us. It'll improve our training. Our young officers that come in have probably never seen a green screen before. They're probably accustomed to a more modernized system, so that is something that's required. And then the Axon booking system has to do with the fact that we will, in our new police station, have modernized interview rooms, both the soft interview room and then our regular interview rooms that we will be able to then professionally or appropriately record both visually and audio. And it will be part of the Axon system, so that when we have to turn over evidence to the state's attorney's office, if a body cam was used, if a squad cam was used, and then they came back and we did an interview after the incident, all of that can be put together and transmitted, which will save officer time, it'll save additional staff time, and it will help with prosecutions by getting that information to the state's attorney's office in one single format. And again, Roy can answer more questions, and I can as well. If you have any about this, it's one of those where we get the new nice building, and it allows us to do things the right way, but there are some costs associated with it.
That's fine. I would stress the staff to monitor part-time salaries. The trend has been to be over budget. This year, we're over budget by $90,000, and then we show it's going back down. With the addition of the police officers, I'm hoping that we can keep that, but the trend is always for this amount to be way over budget, and I think it needs to be monitored as we watch it at least at the 6 month.
Absolutely. Also, I will include it in my monthly financial report, a summary of those 3 line items, the staff full-time, the staff part-time, and overtime combined, so the board is easily viewing that every month.
Thank you.
I have a question for you. Landscaping for public works is up 92,000. Is that all trees? Is that all related to trees pretty much? 53,6606. 75,167.
Yes.
Yes. It's the tree development program that increased from 30,000 to 115,000 next year.
And just, Chief's not here, just to comment a little bit on the part-time and overtime costs and the full staffing, which is why Karen would include all 3 of them in the report. We try to assume, or we have in the past budgeted, that we would have a full police force or near it by filling the vacant positions. We do have minimums that we staff, so we are forced to use more part-time and more overtime when we have vacant positions. We had 3, we've hired 2. They're hopefully graduating soon and coming back.
April 24th.
I'm sorry?
April 24th.
April 24th, which is exciting. So we'll have our new officers, and then we'll just have 1 vacant position. And I know we're working on the potential for a lateral or hiring off of our list to be at full staff. So then the hope is to have that overtime way down for this year. But that's just when we have minimum staffing, that's the way that we've accomplished that in the past.
In economic development, the village budgeted for 30,000 or 3 community enhancement program grants. In fiscal year '24, this had been expended at 40,000. This year, we had budgeted 20, so next year we budgeted 30. Those would still come to the board before any approvals.
Do we spend the 20,000 this year on projects?
There was one for the Legion. What
They
was it?
they didn't get
The
the,
214 Main,
but it wasn't near 20,000, was it?
that was 10.
Yeah. And the Legion, they won't have theirs completed this year. By the
It
end of-
is obligated this year, so the expense hits this year.
I thought we were on a cash basis. What about the 30,000? Do we have that program? We haven't updated that program.
We talked about wanting to
Yeah.
update it and
Yeah.
look at if staff could look at bringing
Yep,
that
we're going to
up.
be bringing it back to the thought was that we would, the last discussion, I went back and reviewed it, was to bring it back and discuss the CPROT program with the new economic development staff, if that were to happen. For going through the process of creating the budget, we weren't able to include economic development staff in the budget. So we've allocated some of my salary, some of Danny's, and some of Becky's from community development into the economic development budget, and that's work I've been taking on, and so has Danny and Becky. So now that assuming that the budget is moving forward, like with this, then we'll bring back the CPAP for discussion. We thought that having insights from a potential, at the time when we were considering an economic development staff member, to have them as part of the CPAP discussion. That's why the discussion was not brought back to the board.
We are hoping that businesses in the downtown area utilize those grants this year, possibly newer businesses. I had spoken to one who Rustic Road Farm about potentially having a storefront situation over there, but we're doing a lot of work at Veterans Park, and we're hoping that will be an improvement there, and so we'll see.
Do you think we need 30,000 budgeted for next year?
How many open spaces do we have in that downtown area? Like open retail spaces?
Open retail spaces.
Danny, can you please come up to the microphone so I can hear you?
That's the only question. I hate to be.
So just to note, it's not just the downtown, it expands a little bit farther out. As you can remember, one of the projects was Rocky's Dojo. So as part of the discussion of the CPEP, we'll bring in a map and show it and discuss with the board what is covered and what is not, but as far as.
Yeah, right now it covers all of Main Street and then up Cross Street, and I think we extended it down Sugar Lane.
Okay.
And then across the street, we included the Rocky's Dojo building. Maybe the old second building, can't remember if that one was included. But that's kind of the area. So there's some businesses, there's not a ton, but.
Yeah. I know one of the buildings over there was recently purchased and she is fixing hers up. I was hoping to do the Veterans Park upgrade and then post about this program and see maybe what we could bring in for the open spaces. So like thinking about that in order. So yes, having 3 grants available I think would be a good idea in case there's one of them. Thank you.
For economic development, are we looking at getting a consultant? I ran across a gentleman that used to do consulting in economic development. And don't know if that's-
So we do have consulting included in the, as a potential for this year in the economic development budget in the event that we have a large project where we need outside support. And we will be working to get a consultant online. There's also a requirement from the redevelopment agreement through the TIF with Sugar Grove LLC that we have when we get to the point where we're reimbursing costs, that they're reviewed by an economic development consultant. So we will need to have someone on staff or on retainer to be able to do that as well. So we'll be reviewing qualifications. So I appreciate if you can pass that along. We'll be putting out an RFQ after the budget's approved to be able to get somebody signed up.
Somebody else recently emailed as well. I'll send it over to you.
Perfect. Yeah, absolutely. We'll add them to the list.
Public Works, I wanted to point out a cost savings in the Public Works budget. The repair and maintenance for buildings has seen a saving of approximately $13,000 due to the new custodial contract. So I like to be able to report on the savings in the expense category as well.
Also a local company and better service. Kudos to Brad and his team for finding them.
Yeah.
For the 23,000 at Mallard Point, we didn't use the funds from last year, so is that like a carryover?
It would be a reallocation of
Okay.
those funds.
And
So if
then-
it isn't used, we have to rebudget the amount.
And then, so we still did not decide on a company, so that's not going to be spent right away, right? And so there's,
So when the funds aren't expended from the budget, as Karen said, they go into the surplus, and then they would just go into the either the general fund surplus that we have available, or the surplus could be used otherwise, but we would need to reallocate funds, which we are doing, for that work to be done in the next budget year.
Traffic control supplies in Public Works about doubled, more than doubled. Is there-
I'm sorry, could you tell me the last four
Sure.
digits of that?
6610, traffic control supplies, it went from 42,000, but we had actual expenses of 42,000 for this year, and it's projected to be 89,000.
We budget for light pole replacements based on accidents. We have yet to use that this year. That's about a $15,000 that's in next year's budget, but not in the projected. Regular light pole replacements are increasing from 15,000 to 25,000. We have budgeted for the LED replacement program with ComEd for 20,000, and that was not offered this year.
So So since we have polls or money left over, do we need to keep that budgeted amount that high, 89,000?
Yes, you always, so there's a surplus this year, but you need to reallocate it next year for it to be able to be spent.
One more thing I want to add, Sean. The difference in the LEDs now that we're onto is we're doing the decorative ones that are not
Oh,
LED.
and
So the
strap
cost is substantially more than the standard. We've done all the standard Cobra heads in the town.
Yeah.
So now we're on to, so they're a little more money.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, that's great.
yeah, so we took it last year off knowing that it would be more money this year.
Oh.
So,
Oh, good.
yeah.
That's a good sign, because I think you
Yes.
said we had 1,500
Yeah.
lights to replace.
Yeah.
Well, thanks, sir.
Community development staffing and full-time and personnel costs has increased due to the reallocation of the full-time administrative assistant from economic development. Legal and engineering services have also increased due to be for the new development, which would be offset by reimbursements.
And how about other professional services? What's that?
I'm sorry, could you give me the last
Oh,
quote
sure.
of that one?
It's, I apologize, 6309. It went from actual 34,682 to 111,690.
That has to do with the new construction costs, which are covered by permit fees. Plumbing inspections went from 20,500 to 84,700 based on the 194 homes. A little bit in water service inspections and plan review, which is reimbursable. The finance department, budget increased slightly for salary and wages, due to that part-time addition or the change from a part-time position to a full-time position with the benefits that would need to be allocated for that. Boards and commissions, had a future facility acquisition and improvement transfer at 200,000, which we are glad we were able to keep those large transfers for that. Are there any questions about the expenditures for the general fund?
Public relations for this year, current year, what did we spend $20,000
I'm sorry, could you?
on? 6515. And then what do we expect to spend 31,000 on for next year?
So, including in this line item is Trunk or Treat, the 250 celebration, the golf outing donation, memorials, flags, miscellaneous community advertising, Griffin in the Grove contribution. I'm sorry, the 250 celebration, that was zero this year. It's budgeted at 5,000 for next year, so that's one of those large increases. Ice rink donation is staying stable, so is the holiday coloring contest, holiday decoration contest. There's $3,000 for trustee initiatives, 5,000 in projected and budget for next year for community enhancement committee. Holiday decorations increased from 1,500 to 7,000. And American flags and banners on Main Street remain stable at 5,000.
Do we need the 5,000 for Main Street? I thought all the flagpoles have them, but maybe it's reallocating them somewhere else. Sorry.
No, that's fine. Those are all, getting close to 5 years old and they're tearing. They're just a replacement thing, just like your flag at home on your flagpole,
is it?
and all that. So it's just time to update them.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
All right, and then I had a question on marketing, 6521.
Oh, wait, can I ask
Oh,
a
sure.
question? You said the holiday decorations, that seemed like a big jump. Are they just at the point where they need to be replaced, or I was just curious? 'Cause it's-
There is that, some of them were getting aged as well, because they're like 5 years old, and then we were gonna try and get some more, add some additional
Okay,
too.
all right, I was just curious, because it was.
I wanted to try and put some over on Municipal Drive now, since we're doing the holiday and the glove ceremony there,
Mhm.
so
No,
that was my
no,
thought.
that's fine. I'm just curious. Thank you.
For marketing, 6521. This year, we only spent $3,700 and we had budgeted 32,000. You know, I think it's in the board's interest to do the marketing and shouldn't be a discretion of certain people. And so, you know, I think it's important that we do a newsletter, we do other things within the community. And I think staff needs to keep this on their priority list of ways to market what's going on around the village. And, you know, I thought that it was abused in the past, but it's not being utilized this year. So I think we need to find that happy medium, but I think it should be.
So we're doing the newsletter, but I just saved money by putting it in with the water bills again, and then certain people are getting e-water bills. We're sending that out electronically, because if they get an e-water bill, they can also get an e-newsletter. So a lot of that is postage. Are you just wanting it to mail it separately? Just
Yeah, it doesn't even have to be a sole village mailer. You know, in the past, we do a mailer with the township and the fire district, different taxing bodies, and I would encourage us to do that, because not everybody looks at the emails or the e-newsletters, and I think we're missing an opportunity to promote ourselves and keep people aware. Like today, I see all this yard refuse out. Everybody thinks it's springtime and they can put out their yard waste. Well, it's not going to be picked up till next week, till after April 1st, or starting tomorrow. But again, we're missing an opportunity to tell people what's going on around town. And whether it's that, or the Groovin' in the Grove, or Holiday in the Grove, I think we have money budgeted for marketing, and we need to spend that money.
I don't think we should spend money just because we have it. How many newsletters are we currently sending out?
That's why we budget.
I send out the e-news monthly.
Yeah.
How often do we send like a paper one with water bills?
I'm not sure about that. I think it's supposed to be quarterly.
Is it? So does everyone want to send a quarterly one separately, or send it with the water bills?
And I don't know if we need to decide it here, but my point is, we have money budgeted, and there's, you know, we budget other expenses. We ought to, you know, spend that money if it's budgeted, or at least evaluate it. And it's an important line item, in my opinion. And I'm disappointed we only spent $3,700. I think, again, we're missing a big opportunity. Stu, you do a great job making posts, and I think it's good that you do that, but I think.
I mean,
we
I
need to do-
completely agree with the quarterly newsletter as well. I was just saving money on postage.
Yeah.
I save money.
But but probably at least once a year, we should have some, you should have a physical something going out. You know.
Yes, but, so it is, but do you want it with the water bills, or you want it mailed separately? Because there
I'm
was
looking at
no
water bills,
postage
but yeah,
cost, because it was going with it.
yeah.
Well, that's where, you know, we partnered with the other taxing bodies to diversify that, or to, you know, split the postage, and it worked out very well. And it was trifold, I think, and the different taxing bodies were able to get their message out, and by the time we split the postage, I think it was roughly $5,000 at the time. We paid maybe a quarter of it, and then we had some publishing skills of person who put that together. You know, I would like to see us, you know, put in $10,000. It'd be more than what we spent this year. It's less than what we projected, but to give us some flexibility in putting something out there to to keep the community going. And I'm not a big fan of hiring a marketing director or a marketing consultant, but at least give the staff.
We do have a marketing intern.
Yeah, we're gonna bring on a communications intern, partner with Wabanzi,
Oh, okay.
to bring on a student.
So
to help
let's
us.
give them some money to do things with instead of,
Yeah, that's good.
So Sean, are you looking at doing, partnering with, like the library or the township or something?
Yeah.
A community newsletter,
Mhm.
like every quarter or every
yep,
so
we did
often?
6 months, but
Yeah, 6
yeah.
months or something, and having that in the mail, and that way we can share, I think that's a
That's a good
great
idea.
idea.
And at that time, I think we had one portion of the mailer dedicated to a calendar, and so, people could put in when their meetings are, upcoming events. So people could put it on the refrigerator or at least look at it. And we could say at least there was a notice mailed out to people.
The library has organized a community leaders meeting that happens
Yeah.
quarterly, and this is something, an idea I can bring up at that meeting.
Yeah, and might be a good thing, I recommended maybe a pizza party for the various boards to get together, so we can meet one another and promote ourselves, and maybe that's something that we do as well. But those are ideas we did in the past, not necessarily have to be done now, but some suggestions.
Was there a consensus to increase this line item for next year or keep it as is?
I think as is because the money is, how much is budgeted?
$4,000.
We just didn't spend the money.
No, it's only $4,000 for this.
If
It's,
we only have an overage.
$4,650.
If we only have an overage of 30,000, you want to increase that to 10?
I'd like to put some money in that line item, so now that we're having an intern, at least they have some money to spend, and they don't have to come back and go through
I agree with Sean, I think we should increase it. Makes
I think
sense.
we should increase
To
it
10.
especially if we can reach out and get a mailer with the other, a community mailer.
And just to clarify, just on the community mailer front, we would have to probably just send it to everybody that's in the township. So there's people there's non-residents that'll get it, as long as nobody minds that. Just as something that's gonna come
Well,
up. 'cause
if
it'll be-
somebody in
it'll
the
be sold out.
township sees something that's going on in Sugar
Yeah.
Grove and they wanna come, hey,
Yeah.
that's not a bad thing.
I will increase that line item. Also, trustee Michaels and I had previously discussed possibly increasing the interest line item. And I have not gotten word back to adjust that yet. I'm sorry, I was a little delayed in that. So it's possible that increase would be offset.
Thank you. Alright. Up next, we have staff reports, Scott Capital Administration.
Nothing additional to add, but happy to answer any questions.
Karen, did you have anything additional for your staff report?
It had included the 4 grants that the village applied for, which is something I kind of love doing, so thank you for that opportunity. But unfortunately, we received word last Friday that none of them were selected to be moved forward.
Thank you, everyone appreciates that. Danny,
What's that?
community development.
I have nothing to add, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Police department.
I too have nothing to report. However, if you have any questions on the chief's report, we have the answer.
Thank you very much.
Progress at the station going well?
Yes, as a matter of fact, I went over there today to make sure that there was no storm damage, and thank God there wasn't, so it's all good. So all good, thank you.
I walked through the chief last week and Brad. They're coming along. It's actually starting to look like a building a little bit. You can kind
It
of
is.
see it in your head.
Yeah.
So when there's a little bit more work done in the addition, we'll get a tour for the trustees and residents to go through. Right now, it's still a little rough and ready. I probably should have had boots, but we made it work and got through there. But we'll get a tour in between opening, and I think the latest date they told me was September, mid-September, potentially to hand it over to us. So it's on schedule.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Brad, Public Works.
The only thing I wanted to add was that all the paperwork has been submitted to IDOT for Park and 47th improvements, including the bond required by IDOT and everything, so hopefully we'll hear something back soon.
Thank you. Trustee Levy.
I attended the library board meeting on the 25th. They're gonna be closed on Sunday the 5th, which is Easter. They've got a grow and use herbs activity on Thursday, on the 9th. They have a new website that's gonna be coming up soon on May 19th, I think is when they're looking for that to be opened up. I don't know if I can say this or not, I'll just mention there's a, House Bill, 5236, Digital Library Protection Act. If anybody's interested in looking at that and seeing what that is it okay to say that? I'm not saying pro or con. Want to get in trouble. Just kind of a library thing.
Yes, you're fine.
Huh?
You're fine.
I'm fine,
Discuss,
okay.
yeah.
Kane County Forest Preserve, they have an Day tree and shrub planting event. Help plant 500 trees and shrubs. It's free. You show up Saturday, April 18th, and it's the Fabian Forest Preserve in Batavia. If you go on their website, they have flyers. It looks like a fun event. I believe the first to come get 500 trees, get to plant some trees out there. They also have a Kane native plant sale on the 25th. And that is at 9 o'clock at the Creek Bend Nature Center. And you can get some native plants from Kane County, which is really a neat thing that's in St. Charles.
Thank you. Trustee London.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Trustee Special.
Nothing to report.
Thank you. Trustee Michaels.
I mentioned earlier about the post or notifying residents about the yard waste, because there's a lot out at the curbs now. And maybe it's good to let people know that they can put it out going forward, right, as of tomorrow?
Brad, April 1st for the
Should be,
yard waste?
yeah, I think so.
And then, I don't know, if we're doing a spring 50/50 program for trees.
We just posted that.
Oh, did, oh, I don't get those books. And so that, and then going back to the budget, I apologize. I'm very skeptical that we're gonna have 194 new homes this year, and I think that maybe we should budget for half and hope that we get that. But you know, I think it's important to find out when the roads are gonna be put in Brighton Ridge. If I anticipate not till the end of June, then they'd start construction, probably 3 or 4 months when they'd start. And if even 15 homes a month, we're looking at about half of what's being projected. So I think the budget on 194 or 205 is very optimistic, especially what I'm hearing from some of the industry trades or newsletters that the housing market's not as strong as they think it is. So I just want to put caution on that budget. That's all.
Trustee Roscoe.
Nothing to report.
Trustee Bonnie is not here. President's report, we went down to Springfield. We were in some meetings, lobbied to get all of the municipal tax that we should be getting. Some of it was, in essence, diverted by the state, and so we're hoping they stop doing that. The project with Veterans Park is coming along really well. There's gonna be perennials all along the path over to the flagpole and around. Those should hopefully come up every year, so it'll be like a one-time expense this year. It hasn't been too expensive, but it should come back in subsequent years. And then the chamber program with the pots, we should have those planted in May, and so those will be around about 25 businesses. And there was something else. There's a possibility of someone local had a tree fall in their yard. I was contacted by a veterans group that hires veterans and gives them work. They do milling and things like that. It is possible that we're going to be able to turn that donated tree into something like benches for Veterans Park, but that is something that we are working on. And I think that is it. There is an executive session this evening. If there is a motion and a second to enter executive session to discuss just litigation.
Litigation and personnel.
Personnel 5 ILCS 122C1 and litigation 5 ILCS 122C11. And to adjourn the meeting afterward, as there is no further business to discuss.
I'll make that motion.
We have a first from trustee Special. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And a second from trustee Michaels. I'm sorry, Ross. Trustee Ross. I clearly need to have, if we could have roll call, please, Tracy.
Trustee Special,
Aye.
trustee Roscoff,
Aye.
trustee Lindy,
Aye.
trustee London,
Aye.
trustee Michaels.
Aye.
Alright. And we will enter executive session at this time.
Wanted to note that remote members are not allowed in executive session according to the rules established by the village board and the code of ordinances. So Nora, thank you, and for attending remotely. And I hope that you're able to hear things well, and I'll talk to you after we can troubleshoot and make it better next time.
Wait,